1 second.
Yeah.
Once he's back, I'll go online.
Back.
Yes.
Okay, ready? Shall we go online?
Yes.
Arul, keep watching. Huh? I'm going mute.
Yeah. Good evening, ladies and gentlemen, and all the viewers of ICRF webinar series live talk show. Today we have eminent people with us on this talk show, and befitting introduction will be done by our moderator. I'll just welcome each of you, Mr. Balasubramanyam and Mr. Khalid Qoud, the chairman of Bahrain CA chapter, Mr. Ajay, and Treasurer of ICRF, Mr. Lakshmanamoorthy, and our moderator, Shubhashree Sundaram. So as you all know, ICRF has been doing these talk shows for the last almost 2.5 months. This is the 10th in the series, and we have addressed many topics of interest of the community in Bahrain. And as you know, ICRF is started its activities under the Embassy of India in the year 1999, and we have been doing a lot of community services. But in the late series, as you know, after the COVID hit all of us badly, we have been seriously taking up a lot of other initiatives so that our community is being protected as much as possible. As you all know, we will not be able to address every problem, but we are doing our level best in terms of supporting the community. 3 months before, we started with face mask distribution and antibacterial soap distribution. It was not about giving a face mask, but it was about creating an awareness in the community that using face mask is important. It's been going on even today. We have done more than 20,000 reusable face masks. Then the second phase, we have started addressing the need of food because many people are not getting salaries. And with the support of a lot of benefactors, including Bahrain government, we have supported over 12,000 families, and over 40 tons of dry ration has been delivered so far, and it's been continuing even today. And we have done a lot of awareness programs. We have distributed over 20,000 flyers and 20,000 flyers for ICRF Life. Impact on depression on people and all that. We are addressing those problems. We are receiving calls. We are addressing that. While happening, all these situations been around us with the difficulties, we are also supporting families who are losing their members, their breadwinner. We have supported in the last 3 months alone, we have supported 18 families, which means 18 lakh rupees we have given to people, to the dependent families back in India. So this is in a nutshell. We have done very few points, and currently what we are doing is supporting people who really want to go back to India and meet their family, final return to home. We are supporting those people as well who cannot afford to buy the tickets. We have so far supported close to 70 members, and we will continue to do it as much as we can because we know that a lot of people cannot afford to buy the tickets. So overall, ICRF is trying to touch the tip of the iceberg, I would say. The problems are much beyond our reach, but we are trying to address as much as we can within our limits. So this talk show is also trying to address the inbuilt problems of the society. Today we are addressing about managing finances, whether it is personal or it is business or anything. And we would like to acknowledge the support of the Bahrain government as well. So to take today's talk session forward, we have an eminent person with us, our moderator. We are very thankful to Ms. Shubhashree for coming in and agreeing to be the moderator today. She's a chartered accountant. She has worked in almost all the big firms, I can say, PricewaterhouseCoopers and Ernst & Young, and currently working in a private firm in Bahrain as the finance head. And she's the first General Secretary of CA Chapter, Women General Secretary of CA Chapter in Bahrain. And we hope that you would become the first woman chairperson of the CA Chapter in Bahrain. So I request Subha to take it forward. And thank you very much once again, all the panel members. Over to you, Subha.
Thank you very much, Arul, for your kind introduction. It's very nice to hear nice words at the beginning of a good session. Good evening, friends. It is a pleasure for me to be here today. I have been silent witness all these years while I was in Bahrain to the stupendous work that ICRF has been doing over the years. And it is indeed a very proud moment for me to be here today as a moderator for an ICRF event. Today, we are going to tackle the topic, living with COVID-19, managing your finances. Something which we can't even see with our naked eye has actually taken over our lives in the past few months. We spend more time washing our hands, being careful while going out, wearing masks, and using sanitizers at regular intervals. The pandemic has affected us more than anything else right now. But when it comes to finance, coronavirus has split the world. Businesses are disrupted. Financial stress dominates millions of employees. Some have lost their jobs, some potentially facing unemployment. And for those whose small businesses have been disrupted or whose finances were already precarious before the crisis are terribly affected. By contrast, if you're one of the lucky ones whose income has been uninterrupted, you may have found that your spending has definitely gone down. As a result, you may have been able to pay off your debts and even build up your savings. Whichever camp you fall into, this talk will surely throw some light on how we cope with what is yet to come. Before I introduce the panel to you, please feel free to post your questions in the comment section and we'll try to answer the questions during the session. Let me now introduce you to this eminent panel. CA PS Balasubramanyam. I will call him CA Bala. He's a managing partner, Assure Audit, and managing director, Assure Consulting. A senior Indian chartered accountant, he is also a member of the British Institute of Management, UK. Balu sir has held very senior positions in insurance industry in the Middle East and Europe. He has established his own audit and consultancy firm in Bahrain, engaged in several business consultations. His firm clientele is illustrious, and he's an advisor and director of other companies in Bahrain and India. He's also served as the chairman of Bahrain chapter of the Institute of Chartered Accountants of India. He's the present treasurer and board member of Bahrain India Society. He's a member of the executive committee of ICRF. Welcome, CA Bala. My next panel member is CA Mani Lakshmanamoorthy. A CA by profession, he is presently the Assistant Director Compliance and Legal at Arab Insurance Group. He's also Chartered Financial Analyst and Finance Risk Manager. He has over 30 years experience in the insurance sector. He has served as the chairman of the Bahrain chapter of the Institute of Chartered Accountants in India in the year 2007 and 8. He is the treasurer of the Indian Community Relief Fund, that is the ICRF. CA Mani strongly believes in the quote by Helen Keller, alone we can do little, together we can do so much. Welcome, CA Mani. My next on the panel I see is CA Ajay Kumar. He is the current chairman of the Bahrain chapter of ICAI. Apart from being a CA, Ajay also holds a diploma in insurance and risk management and is also a certified anti-money laundering specialist and certified insurance supervisor. Ajay has managed a variety of work areas, including tax, audit, corporate governance during his 20 years plus of vast experience. He's currently the head of regional compliance and company secretary for AXA Insurance for Middle Eastern region. He's also an active sportsman and he plays for the Cricket League in Bahrain. Last but not the least, a person who's very popular in Bahrain, Mr. Khalid Al-Qoud. Khalid is an international speaker, entrepreneur, a leadership expert, and business consultant. He has conducted various workshops encompassing interesting topics that cover building generations, loyalty, management, leadership, public relations, public speaking, and corporate social responsibility. Khalid founded the Bahrain's Corporate Social Responsibility Society, which provides workshops and awareness on CSR-related programs. In addition, he's also the founder member of Arab Corporate Social Responsibility Society and member of Bahrain Quality Society, Bahrain Management Society, and Bahrain Society for Training and Developments. Welcome, Khalid Al-Qoud. Now that I've given an intro to all the panel members, the background is set now. When it comes to finance, actually we can split the managing of the finance as business and corporate and personal. We will try to address both these segments today. My first question I direct to CA Baluji to take forward. How do you think Bahrain as a small country, how is it coping the pandemic as the economies in this world are actually crumbling?
Thank you, Shubhashree, and thanks to ICRF for giving me the opportunity to participate here. And thank you, Khalid, for accepting our invitation and being part of this. You are having an illustrious background and being chairman of, the Corporate Social Responsibility Group. You can give us a lot of ideas, although we are also doing a bit in the community service. But we hope to do more, and I'm sure with your, advice and guidance, we could be doing even better and probably even partnering with you. Having said that, I must really, compliment and actually thank the Bahrain government and all the powers that be for, taking care of, the community as well as the individuals and the companies. They have excellent control over the community spread. And they made sure that they implemented the masks and the mobile testing units. And if you look at the number of tests they have done, it's more than 1,020,000 as on date, which is, which is the world record. And that's a great thing that's the beginning of being, and hopefully we should be able to control that. They have also done a lot of awareness campaign. That is why we are at this stage compared to other countries where things are, little out of place. Now I will mention about, the support that the government has given. They have given a support of $4.5 billion from April to September by taking 21 initiatives. If you don't mind, I will just take you through a small presentation, which, I would like you to have a look. So if you look at this, the initiative has been from, April to May. They have paid the full salaries of insured Bahrainis in the private sector. This is irrespective of which partner it is. It's both, private and, there is no compulsion that there should be a Bahraini partner. It is for all companies, big and small. Whoever is in GOSI Bahraini employee, they have got 100% salary from April, May, June. And of course, from July and until September, they are paying 50%. Now, paid individuals, business electricity, water bills. Then we have, the liquidity support of, it was 100 million. It has been increased to 200 million. And redirect all Tamkeen programs, because we also helped several companies to get Tamkeen support, because there were Tamkeen support for SME companies, and exemption of LMRA fees, suspended rent collection from shops and owned by the Supreme Council, suspension of rent from Eskan Bank tenants, and under Tamkeen support portfolio like taxi, bus drivers, etc., received 300 BD per month. So that's a big support. And then, of course, through Tamkeen support program, kindergarten, nursery employees not insured by Social Security received full wages, suspended rent collection from municipal, properties, and payment of 50% salaries insured Bahrainis employed in companies most adversely affected. payment of Bahraini citizens' electricity and water bill, and also the expatriates. Economic sector mostly adversely affected. We further supported by Tamkin, reduction in monthly labor fees of 50%, suspended rent collection from the industrial tenants, and waived up to 3 activities for 2020 commercial registration. Then you have continuing support from the central bank of another 3.7 billion, postponed installment of Escan Bank. And if you want to hear the, of course, exempted all tourism-related industries from tourism levy, then the central bank, the debit card and the charges of the merchant, they reduced it to 0.8%. And the retail banks given, concessionary repo arrangements, whereby up to 6 months, they are 0 rated, case by case. Then reducing the cash reserve ratio of retail banks from 5% to 3%. This enables them to lend more. Then the postponed installments of borrowers or credit card holders without fees or interest, or increase in percentage of profit for a period of 6 months. Then as a precautionary measure, I don't know if you are aware that the CBB treats with ultraviolet treatment in the main vault of the central bank of currency notes. And they have destroyed old currency notes of 5 BD, 1 BD and 500 fils notes. And they are also isolating bank notes received by banks for 72 hours, just as a protection. Then since we are talking about, these are some of the measures, Shubhashree, that you asked me to mention. And do I mention also how the people could, cope with this in these times at this stage?
Sir, we will come back to this point. Of course, your point is very valid. We will come back to this point of how we cope in the coming segments. Money, do you have any inputs on, further inputs on this particular point where we're talking about the economy? What did the government do? How the government helped the people of Bahrain?
As you know, Mr. Balasubramanyam has already elaborated quite a bit. Only thing I just want to mention is this package, which is not exactly subsidy and all, but the total package, including the liquidity and all, it comes to nearly close to 30% of the GDP, which is a really big and very big support actually at this point in time. That's why I just want to highlight that actually. So what the amount of the package, the percentage as a GDP.
Would you like to add anything, Khalid?
Well, at this stage, the whole world have recognized the efforts of our governments. And it shows by the wisdom of our leadership in the Kingdom of Bahrain that we are a country who are welcoming everyone to this place. And we are also united regardless of our nationality or our religion. And when it comes to such crisis, we unite to help each other and we extend our hands to every single person. What the governments have done till today, and we know that this will not be stopped till the government see everyone in a good state, is a tremendous great effort. Not only that the effort was internally, but it was also a case study for other countries to follow what the kingdom have done. And we know for a fact, if you look into the numbers of those who have got the treatment versus those who have the COVID, it's tremendously great numbers. And now also with the new testing that it's happening in the kingdom, which recently been announced by the government, Ministry of Health, you can see how people is volunteering to get to know the effect of that particular test. This thing and other things that was done through other ministries, Ministry of Education, Ministry of Health, Ministry of Commerce, and other ministries, shows that we as a country is ready for any such crisis that it can happen, to ensure that all the citizens, every single person living in this country, is a person who will get his right, his treat, and also he's part of that big family which called Bahrain.
Very true, Khalid. Now let me get specific, because you are linked to the travel industry. The pandemic has definitely affected the travel, the hotel industry, the hospitality, and even the event management sectors. How do you think these sectors will be able to come out of this pandemic? You foresee that whatever support the government is giving, will that help, or there must be something different that has to happen, or it's going to take time?
At the beginning of the COVID, it was a shock for everyone.
Yes.
And even those who have built their strategy to overcome the challenges that they will face, they did not have in their strategy the COVID as a disaster. So the government did help with an initial fees and initial, let's say, substitutes and initial support, which help people for a certain time to think of an alternative solutions. Yes, there was an effect, not only on the business of Bahrain, but in the business of the whole world, regardless of what is the industry that you have that you are working from. Every single industry have a way out, a way to improve, and a way to shift the line of their businesses. If you talk about the events management in particular, which is one of the companies that we are having, the events management have tremendously got affected because most of the events is about gathering people. And now the events industry have come up with the virtual conferences. It do have the same effect somehow, but we are still missing the human touch and the gathering and the networking. Things is going to affect not only in businesses, but we are seeing it that it's affecting the culture itself. The culture that we used to know, it's getting into a shift now. But what do we have to do? We have faced many issues in our life. Now it's the time to get to know how we can make our leadership in business become the leadership of the business. So we think about the strategies to build up new activities, maybe to put the product and services into different direction that is in need as the current situations is putting us through.
That's very true, Khalid. I think all the companies have to come out with their own strategies, because I think nobody predicted COVID-19 at all. I have no idea how the companies are going to deal with their 5-year plans, redo them, rewrite them, and even rewrite their own current budgets. But while we are talking about the strategies, the one department in every company which has been put under a lot of pressure is the IT department, because I think they have really had to do a lot of things, because many of them have gone working from home, which means the IT department had to ensure that all the things were in place. But what has happened with this kind of a culture also, there have been some IT frauds and hackers in the name of charity for COVID. How do you think we all should protect ourselves? I would like to ask CA Ajay, because I think he's got some background on IT, which and also compliance and risk, which might his inputs will be valuable.
Thank you, Shubhashree. So let me first congratulate ICRF for the great job that they have been doing, especially during these tough times. I think it's also a wonderful initiative to have this webinar series on important topics, and thank you for inviting me for this discussion. I'm not an IT security expert, but I'm a data protection officer. So in that capacity, I am involved with the security team to set up controls against cyber risk. Since the start of COVID-19, the world has seen a dramatic number of increase in the cyber attacks directed at organizations, employees, and the public at large. And most common is the victims receive what we call as a phishing email, which lure them to click on a link by disguising themselves as providers of information like vaccines or charity, medical supplies, or it even says, benefits from the government. So if you click on the link, you get to benefits, etc. Or download the video conferencing app like we are using now, or critical updates on the system. So many things, they basically try to make you click on a particular link. And if somebody does that by mistake, then it downloads viruses and the hacker gets access to the victim system, where they not only capture the personal data and financial information, but also take control of the system, lock the files, and possibly demand a ransom for release of these files. To me, the basic defense against this is common sense, all right? But sometimes, given the uncertainty of this current situation globally and the incredible amount of misinformation that floats around, sometimes people don't think logically. So, but in such case of emails, I think the typical giveaways are something like the name of the person sending the email will be familiar, but the domain name itself will be wrong. The spelling will be, there will be a mistake in the spelling that if you notice carefully, you will find that out. Quite often it is not addressed to you by name. It will use a term like, if for example, my email ID is called superstar@gmail, it say dear superstar. So it will start something like that. So there's always a sense of urgency in these emails. It say, if you don't do now, it will happen, this will happen, that will happen. So it's trying to push you to click that faster. And also, and the end result almost always is to ask you for information or financial information. So if you're a business, basically, you have to take some key steps to reduce the risk for your organization, particularly when we move to remote working. I think the most important step is to raise awareness among the team about the heightened risk of the COVID-related phishing attacks. Make sure you have strong passwords, preferably two-factor authentication. Like when you do the virtual VPN, to have a password as well as a token that can be used. Laptops need to have up-to-date antivirus and firewall software. Regular backups, this is very important, especially in terms of ransomware, etc. You have backup which can be used to restore the entire data if something is happening. And be careful with USB drives. Ideally, should be disabled to avoid the risk of malware, and offering employees alternate ways of transferring data. And look at the security certificate of websites that you're accessing. So it should ideally be a HTTPS site which is secure and it cannot be spoofed. And the most important thing, if you're making a payment, if somebody asks you to make a payment on an urgent basis, please do not bypass the payment routes like finance verification and other things. So I think these are some of the tips I would suggest to overcome the cyber risk that we are facing because of the situation.
Very true, Ajay, because I think the hackers try to send in phishing emails which are very common, especially nowadays. I also get, I'm sure most of us would have got SMS from the banks saying that, please don't respond to this phishing emails or messages. See, Mani, my question to you would be, how do you think the bankers as such are perceiving the situation? How do you think a banker looks at COVID-19? Apart from the IT security inbuilt, they have to increase their security now, no doubt. But otherwise, how do you think the banks are looking at it?
Looking at the security or generally?
Generally, security, yes, they have to ensure. They are sending out SMS and mails to all of us saying that, do not respond. But how are they looking at the pandemic itself? What is their
because they manage our funds and money.
Yes.
I think the IT security is paramount particularly for banks. I think there are many steps they are taking it, like already Ajay has elaborated, like double this one, like sending OTP and then reconfirming. So many other things are there. Okay. But as far as pandemic is concerned, if you see, the banks are looking at the credit risk basically. When they have given a loan already. So if the business are not doing well, okay, already now 6 months moratorium has been given. Okay, even though they are not waiving the interest, but still the cash flow will be, because once they receive the interest what they are collecting, then only they will be able to lend again. Okay, so that's going to be one of the issue. Not only that, the non-performing assets. So that's also another point which they will be looking at it once the situation is improving. Probably it will improve, but still it's a concern for them. So these are all one of the main aspects from the banking side. Okay, the interests are low, but the government is providing the liquidity. Like for example, central bank is giving such a huge liquidity support. But where to lend this money, and they will be really worried, like which business to lend actually. So that also needs to be encouraged, looked into. So the business, the situation needs to be improved actually, basically. Once the COVID condition improves, I think they will be back into the normal the situation.
CA Balu,
Yeah.
small businesses are affected tremendously. Just like what CA Mani said, the banks will be lending, but I think they also have to see whether the small businesses are capable of sustaining their business in this situation. How do you think because you're into audit and you're also handle other small businesses for the consultancy, how did you see what is happening in the market?
Well, to sum it all, banks have actually put a freeze on any lending, just for your information, because they do not want to take any risk, and they do not, because obviously times are difficult. Like you yourself mentioned that there are some critical sectors which have been affected, like the tourism sector, the restaurants, the travel industry, and so on. So the banks have put a freeze, and they do not, so many companies come and ask me, can you get this, etc., etc. They are willing to give collateral, etc. But then at the end of the day, there is a freeze, because see, the bank is not really interested in the collateral. They want to know how you are going to repay. And
Yes.
the point is, the restaurant and the other industries which are there, which are working probably at 20% their capacity, and that too because of deliveries. And when the delivery takes place, their margins are also cut, because of course, I don't want to name the company that delivers, and there are a few of them. They take a big chunk of the price, and they have to be competitive because everybody is in the same boat. So there is a bit of a so I will just take you through some of the things that the SMEs can look at.
Yes.
Which probably will be able to, they can elevate their their situation. First of all, the age-old the saying, tighten your belt, go over your costs, and sit with your accountant and see where you are having opportunity to save cost.
Yes.
At the same time, also ask the accountant and yourself, how can I increase the revenue? Identify avoidable costs. Buy only essential to do your business. Then I go back to grandfather's saying, if you don't need this, don't buy. That applies to business as well as personal finances. Be aware of scamsters and hackers. Do not fall for any offers, because there are a lot of offers coming, and then suddenly you go and get hooked into it, then you will be in for trouble. Look for government schemes, because sometimes people are not aware. For example, I told you that we supported so many companies in getting Tamkin support. Many of them are not aware, and the last, because there is a deadline. In fact, my boys and girls worked maybe 15-18 hours on the last few days, but then the system gets choked and you can't submit. So be aware what are the schemes, because government has brought out excellent schemes to support the business, to tide over the situation. So be aware of what the government schemes are announced. So that is very important. Then look at rent, look at insurance, look at staff costs. I don't want to say that some companies have also laid off, but at the same time, just to see that in large companies, they have even taken pay cuts. So that is something to be considered. Of course, there is a silver line. Now, it is all not doom and gloom. Your travel cost is reduced. Your cinema and entertainment expense is reduced. Your dress expense is reduced. Your restaurant going is stopped. So there are savings also indirectly imposed on you. And opportunity in diversity. You will have to find ways to stay fit and stay above water. This is very important. And maybe you can do online business or do online marketing, which is, maybe they have not attempted it before. It could be there. And then stay focused in your business, because that's the most important thing. And be aware of what is happening in the market. There is also one more thing that I want to mention here, is that assuming that the business is in a way that you are not able to run the business, and for whatever reason you don't see, that the solution is not there. The government, in its wisdom, actually way back in 2018, they brought a bankruptcy law. This is called the, the Reorganization and Bankruptcy Law, Bahrain 22 of 2018. What this law is to restructure your business, to put your, it is like, I won't say, okay, there is a comparison to Chapter 11 on this, but then this is an opportunity for companies where they want to see that, because they cannot pay their creditors, they cannot pay the bank. Of course, banks, they have a reprieve from the government and CBB. But this is an opportunity for them to restructure themselves, reschedule the debts that they have and come back to business rather than applying for liquidation. Liquidation is the worst, the ultimate in your. So these are some of the things that come to my mind, how the businesses can cope, to tide over the situation.
Very nice points that you have pointed out, CA Balu. Khalid, how do you think you are coping? You are a businessman here in Bahrain. You have training centers and you do a lot of other activities also. How do you deal with this situation? If it's a small business, or what do you think Bahrain as such can do for the small businesses, apart from what CA Balu already told us?
One of the advice that we always give to the startups and SMEs, at the current situation, it's very much advisable for them to merge their businesses. That's one of the things that can make also the expenses in both parties is less. And they can sustain a healthy growth, not a healthy growth, but healthy moving forward and into presenting their services and their product. Second thing is that look into the current situation and try to bring products related to the situation. Restaurants, and that's one of the things that we do as a consultant as well in one of our companies, is that we give the restaurants an advice, come up with those immunity foods and recipes, introduce them to the market. Bring those healthy foods now, it's more important than ever. And promote them with a good reasonable price so you can get more share of the market. We also had one of the discussion with one of the corporate gifts who says that, you know what, all our products now is on the shelf, we cannot sell them. And our advice to them was, everybody's looking for sanitizer, looking for wet tissues and other of those things that they use as sanitizers. Why don't you make those products as a corporate gifts? Put the mask as well with the branding. Make things that can help people and utilize the current situation. Once you start thinking in a different direction than your ordinary one, that's when you do a change. Every single problem have built a business. And that's how we believe in that. It's not easy. It's easy to be said, but it's need a good challenge and people who is willing to do these things. Talking about your earlier question in regards to the IT. Talking about your earlier question about the IT effects and all those things. We might be late in implementing the technology in our business. None of us have faced this before. The current COVID situation have taught us a good lesson. We are not updated with our IT. We are not ready as an IT people yet. We should have been in the cloud with many services and many business products and selling our products online since very long time. So the world is moving very fast. Business expectation is moving fast with it. So if you're not coping with that fast trends that it's happening in the world, something like the COVID was going to be a big painful losses for a lot of people. So we should be updated with a lots of things. We should be updated in our IT. We should be updated in our product. We should utilize the current situations to come up with the services and also products which is related to such things. Rightly said by my friend Balu, lots of people have came back to him and say, how can we implement or update our profiles and do our registration with Tamkeen support? That's because we still are not updated into how to do the uploading things. We are not having the proper information, proper documentation. And that shows that we have a lots of opportunity to become a good consultants for others. So consultants in the market, that's an opportunity for them, which they should also take it in their hand. A printing house that they would say, we don't have anybody printing. No, go and check those people who have an awareness campaigns. Speak to the ministries who have printing materials. And go and don't sit on your chair or on your office expecting that the business is going to come and knock your door. You have to work and you have to go and look for those opportunities. Opportunities can be anywhere, but that thing that happened to the people 6 or 8 months ago, it was a shocking thing.
Yes, true.
It made us shift our way of thinking, but now it's the time for us to come back on track and see, where can I build? Not to wait. How can I build an opportunity out of this problem?
You're right. I think there is an opportunity that always exists in any problem. I think a bright person would want to look at and pick the opportunity while trying to see and manage how he can manage the pandemic. But it is very natural to spend less if you're worried about the future. It's a very normal tendency. But this creates a classic dilemma, which was first analyzed by the economist John Keynes during the 1930s depression. If consumers don't spend, the economy contracts. This results in job losses, falling household incomes, and further spending cuts in a damaging downward spiral. Mani sir, how do you think we can break this vicious circle? Because I think this is exactly what is happening world over in the economies.
Yeah, that's very true, Shubhashree. Unless people spend and the demand increases, there's not going to be a growth. But the same Keynes, what you are talking about, he was suggesting two methods, which are monetary policy and fiscal policy. So during these pandemic times, or during these kind of particularly crisis, the government should step in and they do both the monetary policy and fiscal policy. For example, the interest rates are currently has been brought to close to zero, if you see that, so that people can borrow. Of course, the banks needs to lend money. See, that's another confidence building measure needs to happen. Otherwise, if somebody wants to borrow, he can borrow at the lowest interest rate. So that kickstarts the economy, number one. That's a monetary policy. But if you say fiscal policy, so the governments are spending where it is required, like for infrastructure, while they are cutting down the expenses in non-essential items, but they are continuing or increasing their expenditure in the capital, like for infrastructure and other items. So basically, if you see the deficit financing, currently the current expectation for 2020 for Bahrain is the deficit finance will be between 15 to 16%. Actually, that means what the government is spending more than by borrowing, and then so that's a good activity. So that is the one way to address this issue. So over the period, if they do this, I think people will get. The other point is putting money directly into the citizens. Okay, that's what they are doing, like electricity, like giving salaries, Bahraini staff salary to the government. So the people will have more money so that they can spend. Okay, this is another way of doing things. So the governments are not only in Bahrain, all over the world. Actually, they are following his principles only, like monetary policy and fiscal policy. I think that's the main way. The government needs to borrow. Okay, yes, borrowing is not good, but still government needs to borrow at this point in time, and then they need to invest and need to give more work to people, and then direct transfer to citizens, which will increase the surplus money in the hands of the people and increase the demand. And that's how the economy can be kick-started.
Apart from the government, do you have any other inputs, Ajay? What do you think? How would the economy kickstart? Of course, the main spender has to be the government.
Yes. So I think a very important point that Manisha said, I think the issue at the moment would not be access to finances or access. I think there's plenty of liquidity available. But what is missing is at the moment the confidence. I think the confidence has to come back in time. And this is where the government's role again is very important irrespective of the industry, because people will start to spend, but it will be what we call as priority spending. So I think there will be a lot of sectors which will get left out in this particular cycle when things become normal, because people have taken a pause from the very fast world that we were in before. They have kind of come down. What are the priorities that they need to focus on? So I think going forward, I would say spending would be on priority sectors, things which see value, and but it has to come back. I think this is where the government's role in terms of pushing people, in terms of giving more confidence in the business, giving breaks that they need in terms of support. And I think most of the governments are doing, Bahrain especially, doing it very, very well. We will expect that spending will re-kick sooner than later. I think it is going to come back. You can't sit on so much liquidity and not spend. So
very true. Then I will try slightly shift towards the personal finances, how we go about handling. I have a question already on the Facebook, but first let me ask my question. Some have already lost their jobs, while for the others, it might just be a matter of time. In these circumstances, how do you think one should manage their personal finances? What aspects should be given attention to? I would go on this question to all the panelists. And I also have a question where I'll be specific on this question. One, Mr. Polar AC has asked, what are the best options for expats to invest in Bahrain to get a decent returns for their savings? There's a specific question on the Facebook. So if from Ajay, I'll just move on to the other panelists also, because this is something very important and everybody would want to know how they can manage their personal finances in this pandemic. Ajay first.
Yeah. So thank you, Shubhashree. I think the personal finance is not something that you look at only during a crisis situation. So it is kind of a lifelong plan. Typically, the goal of personal finance is to achieve financial independence, which means that your main source of income is no longer, if it is not there, like we are currently facing, with people who are losing jobs, you have already built up other sources of income. So it's a big process, but if I can briefly explain that in few elements, I think the first element would obviously be the savings. I think Balu sir very clearly touched upon that already. The amount that you save from your income. So unless you win your lottery or something, your savings come from your salary or the other normal source of income. So do not believe people who say live for today. You can live for today, but you have to plan for tomorrow. I think the rule of thumb for savings is like 30% of your income. So that should be your minimum base. And since the income we cannot control much, people have to control this spending. So you have to, the way it should work is you save your money first, spend on the rest of it. So maybe for Indians, you can consider it like, because there is no personal tax in Bahrain, you can consider this 30% as your tax and set that aside first, and then to save the rest of the money. And savings has two elements. So one is your emergency fund, which we normally call, 6 months, ideally 6 months of your earning, which will help you during a job loss situation or an emergency or something. And the second component is the one that you invest. And the emergency fund should be kept in a safe and easy to access source, which is like an FD or something like that. And second element is the investments. So investments work on the risk principle. So higher the return, the higher the risk, and the higher you save, the more risk you can take. So for example, if your shares on stock exchange is a good example, it has very good potential for high returns. Now the markets are low, you can probably enter and you can, in time you'll get good returns. But you should not put all of it into stocks, because then you are going to touch upon your emergency fund. And then if that fails, basically what I'm saying is you cannot put all the funds into one basket. So you have to diversify your investments into different elements depending on your age, financial position, risk profile, and so on. For example, remember, buying a bigger car or a TV is not an investment. So don't fall prey to social pressure and invest in things that you cannot afford. So that is the second element. The third element is borrowing. So borrow very wisely. If you are using it wisely, it is very beneficial. For example, if you have a secure source of income, you can borrow to take benefit to meet an immediate requirement, which have a long-term benefit. It can also create a habit of saving to meet a loan liability. There are many other beneficial borrowings, such as if you have an opportunity which gives you higher returns than your cost of borrowing, so you can go for borrowing, short-term borrowing on that. There are things like education loan or gold loan, for example, which puts your gold to work, and so on. Beware of debt traps. Do not get into borrowing which you cannot meet. Never go to loan sharks. I think this is a big problem in Bahrain. ICRF is very well aware of it, that never go to loan sharks. These are people who are easy to enter, very difficult to exit. And another major trap is the credit card, which lures you to spend on things which you don't need. So also never borrow to put money into the stock market, etc. And the fourth point, the last point on this, is the protection. I think people should have a life insurance. Again, a rule of thumb is insurance amount should be at least 10 times of your annual income. So this is very important if you have a very young family or dependents and you are the main income earner. So this should ideally be a term life policy where the coverage is higher and the premium is lower. This is the primary requirement. But again, people fall into the trap of expecting return of the money that they have paid as premium, and they go for investment linked insurance, which is not good. You consider this only after your basic protection is done. So if I can summarize, I would call it the 4D principle. So discipline in savings, diversification of investment, debt trap avoidance while borrowing, and dependence protection. So this is my core mantra, I would say.
Oh, that's great inputs, Ajay. There is another question on what options on saving related to global currency exchange. CA money, you have anything to add on to what CA Ajay has said? And if you can also address the question, is there any options on savings on global currency?
Options on, okay, well, let me first add a few points with what Ajay has said. So I think Ajay was talking about life insurance. I would like to tell people to look at their health insurance, okay, whether COVID is covered in that or not. Majority of the health insurance policies doesn't cover COVID, but nowadays, if you approach the insurance company, sometimes they add without any additional cost with certain limits and all. So while travel insurance also, I think you need to look at whether the insurance covers this. If not, approach the insurance companies and try to request them to include if it's available. But generally nowadays, I understand certain companies, they are providing with a limited amount, like a limit on the liability. Other aspect is, see, because of COVID, actually, the expenses are, for example, a family of 4, if you are traveling, for example, when you are coming back, that means you need to have a 60 BD, almost 30 at the time of airport, 10 days after that 30. So that means 4 into 60, 240 BD only for testing is required, apart from your travel cost. So that means if it is really required travel, otherwise at least postpone it till for next 6 months. Okay, that will be the suggestion. Yeah, regarding the investments, actually, see, at the moment, the investment he's talking about, what is the option available? It depends on the amount. For example, if you want to invest in bonds, actually, people ask for minimum amount. Okay, so people with $100,000, you can invest in the bonds. So because this is like a limit. So if you are above that, actually, there are financial advisors. We suggest to consult them and take a call. Okay, attractive bonds are there. But if you are not in that category, because I believe in Bahrain, particularly expatriates, nearly 70 to 80% belongs to middle class, actually. So currently, even though the interest rates are low, if, for example, BD interest will be 1.5% per 1 year, so it's very low, but still better to have in cash for some time being. And then as the situation improves, look for opportunities. That will be the advice. Okay. Regarding the currency, actually, you have to follow. I think you need to be a little more educated about the currency. Without that, I don't advise you to invest in currency. The amount is, if you cannot bear the risk. Yeah. So this is my suggestion. Yeah.
I think currency also requires a lot of monitoring. So it becomes, it's a risky area. I think it is a personal choice at this stage, at least in the pandemic, how people would want to go.
Yeah.
CA Balu, I would also like to, apart from adding on to the points of CA Ajay and CA Money, there is a specific question because everybody wants to manage their cash flow. And VAT has been one such where you have to pay out first to the government whether you collect it or not. And one Mr. Chenban Jalal is asking on the Facebook that Saudi, the VAT has increased to 15% in Saudi. Do you see a chance that it will increase in Bahrain too? I think CA Balu, yes.
Yeah, I think one of the government representative did. Are you able to hear me?
Yes, now. Yes, yes.
Okay. Already answered this question. And there is talk of corporate tax in Saudi Arabia, for your information, which I spoke to an ex-minister in Saudi, and he says that it's likely, but nothing is certain. So with regard to VAT increasing in Bahrain, you know, I don't know how to answer that, but there could be a potential, but it all depends on the government. So with regard to, if I may add to what Ajay and Mani talked about the personal finances, I would seriously consider a few things, you know, to be of advice to our viewers. One is your age. At what age are you? Because you cannot take risk. So therefore, because one of my gurus, he said, your money is your money as long as it is in your pocket. If it goes out of your pocket, it is somebody else's money, whether it is anything. So therefore, you have to be careful in which you put. And Warren Buffett also says that buy cheap. Now, sometimes the stock market is not cheap, but it is a safe bet that you are assured at least the value of the company is there and is going to be there. Now, so you have to look at security, few things. And one thing that I would add to the thing here is the real estate. You see, Bahrain is one of the best countries. I have lived in almost all GCC countries. I can definitely say with the confidence that I don't think there is any place like Bahrain where you have the social freedom, economic freedom, and therefore somebody who is living, in a rented place, he can consider buying a property. You see, as I always mention, tough times don't last, but tough people do. So therefore, this tough time is going to go. It's not going to be there forever. So this is an opportunity for you to invest in a real estate where your rental will become the installment payment, the EMI that you are going to pay, maybe a little more. So as long as you are able to sustain this period and still continue to, pay your rental, you could consider that as an opportunity. Debt instrument like money said, bonds, yes. Stocks is a good thing. Now, I would also like to add to one of the points of Khalid, that the government also brought out a scheme called FinaCare. Millions were collected from the public for helping the poor and needy, and that was a brilliant initiative from the government, I must say. So that's my take on that.
Khalid, can I have a quick input from your end on only on the personal finance side? You have any other input on this side?
What we see nowadays is that the retail is the one who is having the majority of the expenses, the purchasing of the citizens. And for that, if we have any advice, buy only the necessary things. And if you are a person who is in a good stand, that's the time for you to extend your help and support for others. I'll share with you something that we do as an association. Currently, as an association, and since our chartering day back in 2011, our strategy is that we don't receive cash from any organization. We only receive the needy things for other people, and we pass it, or we act as a medium in only sustainable projects. currently, we have one of the hypermarkets, which is one of the biggest hypermarkets in the country. We don't want to make any advertisements in our forum talking today. So we asked them to prepare for us a box which have all the needy things for a family, or an individual, or a couples for 1 month. And with that link, we have shared this link with every person that we know in the country. So people is paying online, purchasing the boxes. Boxes goes to the house of the needy families. Regardless of their nationality, regardless of their religion or anything. We are one citizens living in a beautiful country. We call it home. And it's the name of that home, Bahrain.
That's an excellent initiative.
And not only this, along with that, there is now the increase of the unemployment and people who lost their job. So what we did is that we have opened 4 free training centers in 4 villages, and now we are in the process of opening the 5th one. Currently, what's going to happen, we will train people who's unemployed in certain skills, and those are skills which can help them to find a job, including their interview and their CV and many other things. So from a virtual training now, and after the COVID, it's going to be a physical training. That's another thing which didn't cost us anything, except the collaboration between the private sector and the non-profit sector to bring the solutions to the market. So going back into the question about investment, if you look now, the best investment is in property because it's there for you even after the COVID. And the property prices, especially that we have also great accountants here with us, who is also doing the accounts for investment houses like Balu. The investment in property is the best thing that you can do as current, because the return after COVID will be a very good margin for you. So this is what I wanted to add, and we extend our support and all our initiatives with your organization, and we look forward for also collaborating with you to support the community of the Kingdom of Bahrain.
I think it's been an excellent session, but one more thing, I just want to have a quick round of last 1 minute from all of you on the managing the finances itself, because I know as a community, we stand by giving back to the community because the society needs today what it as never before. So right from what we can give back to the society, and it's the same as how we receive it. So CA Ajay, can I just start with you? We'll go around 1 minute wrap up, please, because we are actually short over time, but I would like to have the opportunity of having everybody a final round of 1 minute, please. Yeah, Ajay, you're muted.
Sorry, I just want to say in conclusion, I mean, my closing would be to say that we are all in this together, and I think we have to support each other and to get out of this together as well. Which means that you always have to think about those who are struggling and support them, and also look at the positive side of the crisis, which will only help you overcome this tough time. And also the government, like we mentioned before, has been doing a fantastic thing. I think Bahrain was the only government which never went into a full lockdown. They've always been pragmatic compared to all our neighbors that I have vision on. They went into lockdown at some point, but Bahrain has been open throughout in phased manner, planned manner, and I think I'm sure the government will continue doing the pragmatic measures going forward. And I think in terms of the support that we have received, more than the money, I think the message is very important, what the government has given, that irrespective of which nationality, which country you're coming from, we are with you, you know, as we look to sail through this tough times. And I think that is a very, very positive message. And this is what we should look at. And no wonder Bahrain is very high in terms of the, you know, expat satisfaction index. when you compare to all the global countries. So I would say.
Yes, point well taken. CA Money?
This time, no, this problem also shall pass. The world has seen many such events before and has come back very strong. So let us remain positive. Okay, let's stay close while in a distance. Okay, and let us be relevant. You know, no, we need to have some impact on the society. Okay, there are fortunate people who are in a better position compared to majority. I just earnestly request those people try to help as much as possible to people, and if you can reach to ICRF, so which is already doing a wonderful job. Actually, we can identify. So the main issue is identifying the needy. Okay, finding out what they want, and find out the donors or who can afford to support, and then reach them all the support which we require. So I can quote number of incidents where ICRF has been in the forefront and helping people from ration, right from medical expenses, right from support in case of travel. Okay, 7 days, a few days back, a 7-year-old baby which was born here required a heart surgery, which has been given a travel assistance and even getting a permission to travel. So I think ICRF in the forefront. I just request those people who can afford, please come forward and please support all the worthy causes, be relevant to the society. Thank you.
Very true, CA Money. Khalid, quick wrap up on what you think about managing finances itself.
I'll say to the private sector, either you have services or products, those who give you profit is people, because they are the one who bought your services or your product. And it's the time for us today to support first people who have helped us within our organization. So instead of let them out, no, find solution for them. Second thing, the community have given the private sectors their profit. So don't forget them. It's the time for you to stand with them. We are privileged to be in this country. We thank our King, Hamad bin Isa Al Khalifa, and our Crown Prince, along with our Prime Minister, for all their supports, and for the ministers who have been doing great job all over those months, especially with the COVID. So thank you for inviting us to speak in your prestige forum, and we look forward for more collaboration with your organization. So thank you very much.
Thank you, Khalid. CA Balu, your final wrap up, 1 minute.
Yeah, actually, one thing I wanted to mention, that's why I raised my hand, is for people, you mentioned about people who lost jobs. See, the LMRA has come out with an initiative where job, for example, if you want to employ somebody, we have to put an advertisement in the local press, which is a classified ad costing 30 PD. So that is a great opportunity for people who have lost jobs to please look at both the GDN and the Daily Tribune and other papers that probably they are used to look at opportunities. With regard to personal finances, the only thing is you be alert, be aware of what is available, look at yourself, introspect, and stay focused and see what you can do better, because this is an opportunity for you to reinvent yourself. Because every time you look at it, I am sure you will find something better. So it is for you to take initiative and also discuss, collaborate with other people, and maybe take a partnership, get into merger with somebody else, partner with somebody else, get going, try to be afloat, because that's the most important thing in today's times.
Yes,
that's what I
thank you.
Yes. Last point, when he was talking about job, I think ICRF is in the process of developing a portal for people to help. Yeah, it's in the process actually.
Yes, thank you. Thanks for the inputs. Thank you, panel members, CA Money, CA Ajay, CA Balu, and Khalid, for your wonderful inputs on the corporate business as well as personal finances. I'm sure that the audience who are listening or who would see this presentation later also will benefit from the advice or the inputs that you have given. Of course, today the world dynamics has changed, but we need to have a more positive outlook, as all the panel members have suggested. Let us count our blessings. We are in a country which has been nice to us, and we are very blessed to be here. Let us be grateful for what we still have and move forward. We can only hope that things get better for the economies of the world, and of course for the country that we are staying in, and for each one of us individuals. I thank ICRF for this exemplary initiative in bringing in these kinds of discussions on various topics each week. Good evening and stay safe. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Hi,
Arul, you're back.
offline.
Yes, we are back online. Shubha and all gentlemen, you've done a very good job. Actually, the session was very nice. Very, what to say, the answers were to the point. Most of it is very practical answers given by
Yes.
all of you. So thank you so much. Shubha, you have done a wonderful job managing all these stalwarts together. You know, when there are too many people with too much knowledge, it's difficult to manage the knowledge.
I want to hear something more. I know Balu sir has got some more presentation, but I have to tell him no. Sorry for that, sir. Because, you know, we had to, I mean, there are a lot of, on personal finance itself, I think the advice that, or the inputs that you have given were amazing. Honestly.
Excellent.
I mean,
Very good.
It was very good.
And we saw in the comments also, Facebook comments were coming in saying that very, very valid points. So I should thank each of you. First of all, Khalid, thank you so much for your valuable time with us. So now you know pretty much what ICRF is doing, what are our activities. So you can promote our activities and try to support whichever way possible, because our initiatives are, you know, for supporting the community. And CA Ajay, thank you so much for, first of all, I should appreciate CA chapter for supporting us consecutively for the past so many years. As far as I am involved with ICRF, I know that every year you are supporting us a lot. And individually, many people, especially Shubha and Balu, all of them individually also support us other than CA chapter. So thank you so much for all your support and especially presence into this meeting, because it gives an important, the way people look at it will be different as far as you are also there, because CA chapter is also coming in as a supporter to ICRF. So that imagery is very important for us. So thank you so much for your presence. And Mani and Balu are in now. So
We are
family.
We have two attendees also, Mr. Nijad and Ms. Mariam, who are already there. I can push them into the video.
Yeah. Please push them. Let's get the feedback.
Yeah.
I think.
Shubha, a special thanks to you. You managed it so well. Thank you so much for your presence and your valuable time. Your questions were very
excellent.
apt. So we were able.
Excellent, Shubhashree. Excellent. Really very good. The way you conducted.
The show depends on the moderator. So you did it well.
Thank you.
To manage the time is a difficult part.
No, actually, I have kept a timer here. This time is 5 minutes. 5 minutes slower. So that's after some time only I realized, oh my God, so I messaged Arul, that's why.
The tendency, the general tendency. Thanks, Khalid.
Thank you, gentlemen.
Thank you.
I'd like to thank you, Balu, for the invitation.
I'm really thankful personally for accepting our invitation, Khalid. And as your presence itself is a great encouragement for us. You are occupying a very important position in terms of corporate social responsibility, and we would like to be associating with you to see and do something that we can do better.
Khalid, you said you will share that. You will share that link, where people can ask for help.
Yeah, he mentioned it.
Can you?
I will send it to Balu right away. So thank you all, and we're there. We would like to support you with whatever we can, to all the Indian community and to the citizens of the country.
Thank you.
You are there with us.
As well.
You are there with us.
Managing the show.
We would love to sustain our relationship to the future as well. Thank you.
Thank you, Khalid. Thank you.
We will be contacting you back to, you know, in as and when anything that we can work together or something, as you mentioned earlier.